Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're just waiting for this session to end outside for our rest of the speakers to come in. While we're waiting for our speakers to actually all be here, just a quick info about the translation and interpretation. For English is channel 1 and 2 for French, 3 for Spanish, 4 for Arabic, 5 for Chinese, and 6 for Russian. So, rest of the speakers to come in. While we're waiting for our very good morning to you all. In the name of God, most gracious and most merciful, Your Excellencies, honorable guests, lovers of the earth and land, Thank you all for being here with us today at this side event where we discuss forest and land restoration pathways to COP16 of UNCCD, where nations will gather in Riyadh to call for action towards combating land degradation. The call for land reform is repeated in all religions and faiths, and cause not corruption upon the earth after its reformation, the Holy Quran. As we begin our event, we would like to introduce our first speaker. From the forest of Ragadan, through the agriculture terraces of Al-Baha, he set out and made his way in favor of land and in love of earth. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi, Permanent Representative of Saudi Arabia to UN and Food and Agriculture Organization, to deliver his opening remarks. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ali. Good afternoon, everyone. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to speak on behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, UNCCD, and FAO about the role of forests in restoring degraded lands. We are grateful to FAO for supporting this side event. Saudi Arabia and FAO have a long journey of valuable strategic partnership since 1952. Getting back to our topic, I would like to say that forests are globally recognized as one of the most important sources of mitigating effects of climate change and providing sustainable solutions to recover degraded lands. Forest is one of the largest terrestrial natural resources that has consistently retained land coverage, about 30% of total land area of planet over the many past years or decades. Despite the loss of 420 million hectares since 1990. Recovery of degraded land, improvement of biodiversity, and provision of sustainable livelihood are some of the major functions of any newly established forest. Ladies and gentlemen, it's being estimated that about 100 million hectares are being degraded every year. Problem of land degradation is even more in severe arid and hyper-arid countries, which extend to 40% of the total land area of the planet. Well, Saudi Arabia has taken up the challenge of avoiding, restoring, reversing the process of land degradation through Saudi Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative, which are expected to collectively rehabilitate around 200 million hectares in the years to come. During the Saudi presidency of G20, Saudi Arabia has convinced all member countries to launch the G20 Global Land Initiative, and that's to provide technical support and restoration of projects and programs at the global level with the support of UNCCD. In view of the unwavering support of Saudi Arabia to the global land agenda, we host the 16th Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, that's COP16 in Riyadh. It will be from the 2nd of December to the 13th of December 2024. This is the largest global summit on land that shall provide solutions for combating land degradation, desertification, and drought. We expect from this elite gathering of policy makers, experts, international organizations to suggest measures and initiatives that can be resonated and launched during the COP16 to enhance the role of forests and sustainability restoring degraded lands. On behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, all distinguished delegates are encouraged and welcome to attend COP16 to support the common purpose of increasing productivity and of the land and the resources. Finally, the future of our land is on the line. We need to work together. We need to recover our land. And remember, healthy land is the heart of reaching positive global climate, nature, and sustainable development goals. In the end, I would like to thank again our partners, the co-organizers, FAO and UNCCD, in supporting these efforts to work on the common cause of rehabilitating our land. May God save our land. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Have you ever wondered what the Earth would say if it had a chance to speak? Let's find out through this video entitled Land Degradation, a Call for Action.
What would the Earth say if she could speak? Would she prevail harsh words upon us regarding her treatment? Or would she speak softly to encourage our change? It may seem she has no voice, yet we need not hear what she has to say to understand her plea. We need only take the time to look, to truly see the mistreatment the Earth has endured because of us. She wants nothing more than to provide, to nourish, and to heal. Yet we take and we harm the very essence of life we should hold so dear: our land. Land is a fundamental pillar of life on Earth. It encompasses the habitats of plants and animals which affect our soils, our oceans, and our skies. The degradation of our lands impacts our water resources and the composition of our air. For too long, we took too little care of our soils and allowed our ever-growing populations of livestock to feed, surpassing the land's needs to recover and renew. The coffers of our lands have begun to run dry more rapidly than ever, turning areas which were once brimming with resources into deserts and wastelands. Environments that were once filled with wooded areas and rainforests are now vast, barren landscapes. But more than the land is affected by such changes. Land degradation amplifies climate change, since vast amounts of carbon stored in soil and vegetation cover are released due to land degradation. People are forced out of their homes, seeking out new lands as their resources have run scarce due to land degradation. Biodiversity itself is facing a direct threat as a great majority of life on Earth calls the forests their home. Every year, numerous plant and animal species are becoming extinct. We can no longer recuperate the sheer quantity of resources we have seized, nor can we restore the diverse species we have lost.
I am the land that gives as it takes. If you fed me flowers, I will bloom. If you fed me fire, your cloth will catch its sparks.
Our modern world is actively suffering the same fate at a pace such as man has never seen. Species evolve over time to resist illness and adapt to change. We cannot sit back and hope the land will simply thrive for us. It is imperative that the earth itself will thrive because of us.
He hails from the verdant landscapes of China, a country where nearly a third of the land is covered in lush forests. With a deep appreciation for the natural world and profound commitment to environmental conservation, please welcome Dr. Shimin Wu, Director of Forestry Division, Food and Agriculture Organization, who brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to our gathering in delivering statement by FAO, focusing on pathways leading to forest and land restoration and significance of agri-food system, and who also, I'm honored that we both share the bachelor degree in English literature. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As we know that land produces over 95% of the world food. However, 1/3 of the agricultural land is already degraded by human activities, while degraded forests and agricultural lands account for almost 87% of the total degraded land. So land degradation has become the single worst challenge to ensuring food security, nutrition, and livelihood of millions of farmers, implying that without committed political will, continuous investment, and land restoration action on the ground, our land won't be able to produce the almost 50% more food and agriculture products that will be needed by 2050. So this scenario will also prevent reaching the land degradation neutrality targets promoted by the UNCCD. Dryland are facing even worse challenges, especially in countries in the arid and semi-arid regions like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. According to FAO Global Dryland Assessment, dryland occupies 41% of the land surface and are home to 2 billion people. However, only 14% of that land is occupied by crops. The majority is covered by dry forests, woodlands, and rangelands, and altogether providing 44% of the wood, food, and key products and services for their communities. On the bright side, dryland have immense potential to tackle global challenges. Agroforestry systems especially offer significant opportunities for degraded forest and crop restoration and food production in dry areas. FAO's Grazing with Trace report specifically provide evidence on the positive impact of integrated pastoralism and forestry on the productivity, sustainability, and economics of dryland ecosystems. I was quite impressed, actually, by the 17 case studies and the 3 streams presented in this report. And I saw at least 2 authors of this report present today here, right? So Fida and Pedro, and I didn't see Nadi, right? Yes, 3 of them. Actually, these are top dryland experts in FAO. Ladies and gentlemen, FAO works at the forefront of global restoration efforts as co-lead together with UNEP of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. And FAO also leads the action against desertification and the implementation of Africa's Great Green Wall program in 10 countries. FAO is also home to COFO Working Group on Dryland, Forest, and Agro-Silver Pastoral Systems, supporting countries to improve collaboration and knowledge and promote and upskill good practices for protection and sustainable management of dryland areas. Excellencies, colleagues, FAO works with countries in the Near East and North African region, especially with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in sustainable managing limited but valuable natural resources and promoting food security in dryland areas. FAO and Saudi Arabia has been strategic partners for over 75 years already in the implementation of more than 40 projects. The current technical cooperation programs include enhancing capacity in sustainable management of rangeland, forest, and natural resources to support rural livelihoods. So, ladies and gentlemen, the sustainable management of land and forest needs innovative policy and legal frameworks. FAO, through COP16 Working Group on Dryland, is engaging a resource mobilization campaign among its partners and members, international institutions, and other stakeholders to upskill the efforts in the sustainable management of dryland. The COP16 of UNCCD, hosted by Saudi Arabia, and the forthcoming International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralism offer unique opportunities to strengthen our collaboration upon a shared vision for land restoration and sustainable management. Our collaboration holds the key to unlocking the dryland potential for improving livelihood that supports towards a better present and shared future. So you can count on us, count on FAO support in enhancing land restoration, as well as making COP16 a great success. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wu. From a country which holds 1/3 of the world's remaining primary tropical rainforests, including about 60% the Amazon rainforest, from Brazil through Mozambique, Ecuador, Helsinki, and landing in Riyadh. He is regarded as the padrino of land and forests. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Eduardo Mansour, Director General of Forest at the National Center for Vegetation Cover, who will be moderating our main panel discussion today. And Dr. Mansour, I give you the mic to introduce your guests also.
Thank you very much, dear colleague Saad, and Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be back to the former house before moving to Riyadh. I work here, as my colleague mentioned. And one thing only that I would like to say, it was a fascinating experience, because one of the things we do in FAO is to try to promote the forest, the conservation agenda at the highest level in political will. It's important that there is political commitment for that. And what took me to Saudi Arabia, and I could recognize it there, is that in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there is a high-level commitment already in place for promoting ecosystem conservation, for promoting land restoration. So this is a huge motivation, and the reason why we are so enthusiastic with COP16 that will be held in Riyadh to 13 December. So Saad was very generous with my previous CV, but my function here today is just to moderate a very, very interesting panel and to break the ice and make also you to think, because as you saw Dr. Mohammed, His Excellency, when he introduced, he challenged us to put our thinking hats on and come up with innovative ideas for COP16. How the forest community that's gathering here in COFO could bring to Riyadh, could bring to COP16, could bring to UNCCD ideas to address land degradation neutrality. This is the SDG target 15.3, a land degradation neutral world, and we have to recognize that we are not on track to achieve it by 2030. We are not there yet. So, Dr. Mohammed put us the question, and Dr. Wu recognized that 98% of our food comes from land, but agriculture and pastoralism, when unsustainable, are the main cause of land degradation. So that's another challenge that we have to look at. And nothing but better than a high-level scientific panel to talk to us about this. I have with us here Mr. Gabriel Lambert. Gabriel is a French national from the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification Secretariat. He's advisor to the Deputy Secretary. And we are very honored to have Gabriel in the panel. And I would like Gabriel to start by setting the scene, by giving us why the forest community is important for land degradation neutrality, and how can we make sure that planting trees contribute to achieving the SDG 15.3, what would be expected from the forest community at the COP16 in Riyadh. Gabriel, you have the floor, please. And for the moderators, for all of them, before we start, if you are brief, we'll have 2 rounds of discussion and some questions from the audience. So please go straight to the point and tell us what you think, and hopefully we'll have the time to revert to a second round of questions as well.
Thank you, Eduardo. Hello, everyone, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to represent the UNCCD here. Just in a nutshell, I will try to be brief. As has been said, the UNCCD will have its COP16 in Riyadh. That's the first time it will be happening in the MENA region, and it's also coincide with the 30th year of the UNCCD convention. It will be a landmark event to raise global ambition on land, drought resilience around this people-centered approach. And clearly this is a great opportunity to reset the current trajectory on land degradation. The COP, of course, still is organized with around a very ambitious action agenda. We call the Riyadh Action Agenda, that will be organized around 7 thematic days, where everything will be targeted around land degradation neutrality achievement, where we have to commit to 1.5 billion hectares to be recovered and restored by 2030. These 7 thematic days will in particular target this goal, and they will be organized around 7 days. The Land Day, where land degradation neutrality, nature-based solution, and land restoration will be addressed, especially also with the private sector engagement. That will be very important. Well, a large community of private companies also will be there to commit to their action to the land degradation neutrality. Agri-food system will be also very important and address through food security, resilient crops, sustainable land management practices, and regenerative agriculture. Governance will not be avoided, and it is important also to include the land tenure, the land use planning, and involving the subnational government in that, because this is a very crucial component to achieve this land degradation neutrality. People's Day, because it is also a centered approach we want to focus on, where youth engagement, gender will be promoted, and indigenous people and local communities there. There will be several forums there involving them, because they are part of the answer for land degradation neutrality achievement. 3 other days that will be organized around science, technology, and innovation, because it is very important also to bring the data, now the data evolution that has made a great step forward, and that should be used also to achieve this goal. And 2 important days will be closing this action agenda: the Resilience Day, where drought resilience, water scarcity will also be clearly addressed there, and the Finance Day, also bringing public and private finance and innovative finance around this day. Here, the land degradation neutrality is the primary goal for the UNCCD, and we intend to also have transversality and horizontality across the days to make sure that we are achieving the goals, bringing all the different communities in an inclusive way. promoting inclusion, as I said, the private sector engagement, the agri-food system also to to avoid further agricultural land degradation, which is a big part and a big important share of the problem. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's how we think that and how we envisage the COP in Riyadh to be happening, to have a high level, to reach this high level of ambition that is now clearly expected there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. And I think it was very clear that the thematic days, the action agenda at COP has a little for everyone, actually has a lot for everyone. Because every thematic day will give the opportunity for communities that are interested in natural resource management, sustainable use of natural resource, climate change, biodiversity conservation, to address the issues and to build commitments. Thank you so much for that, and I hope that you tease the questions from colleagues. I would like now to move to the other panelist, which is Madame Victoria Valenci. Victoria, as we heard from Dr. Fu, FAO and the COFO has a working group on dry lands and sustainable pastoralism. And Victoria is a staff member of FAO, working as an expert on community engagement in the dry land forest team. And we would like to hear from her how this engagement of local community can help accelerate land degradation neutrality targets in the movement that we are trying to build, in the momentum that we are trying to build for the Riyadh Action Agenda, for the COP16 and beyond. Victoria, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. And as Eduardo said, I'm here to represent the voice of the youth, women, and local communities. So as we've heard from Mr. Wu, land degradation has become the single worst challenge to ensuring food security, nutrition, and the livelihoods of millions of farmers. And with dry lands occupying 41% of land surface, reaching land degradation neutrality targets promoted by UNCCD is becoming more and more difficult. While many of us are working to combat degradation of land, striving to combat further desertification, there is often an overlooked solution. Why don't we give the voice to the local communities living in these areas? So colleagues and friends, how do we do that? And today I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we're doing with the COFO working group and the dryland team here at FAO. We've heard numerous times this week alone that the attention should be given to local communities, women, and youth. Yes, these classifications often group together as marginalized. UNCCD's Youth Engagement Strategy and Action Plan 2024 highlights that actually 40% of the global population, 1.7 billion people, are under the age of 25. This is a substantial number. And these are the agents of change of the future who will inherit these current degraded lands, but are challenged to discover the opportunities to combat this. A heavy task indeed, an opportunity for young people, men and women alike, to utilize their creative ideas and methodologies. So now turning a little bit to the youth aspect. During the World Forestry Congress in May 2022, the 15th World Forestry Congress, a youth call for action called Work With Us was created based on the consultation of over 600 youth worldwide. Work With Us reported youth action towards building a green, healthy, and resilient future with forests. Youth also demand support from all actors to work together, providing critical ambition and skills to take up the global challenge of halting deforestation and forest degradation while promoting sustainable forest management. Young people are needed to successfully address this situation. Their call for action suggests working together towards improving 4 areas: education and training, decent work and employment, participation and representation, and gender equality, empowering all young women in the sector. Similarly, the UNCCD Youth Caucus launched a call to action, Youth for Land, Our Legacy, Our Future, where global leaders, those actually convening at COP16, are encouraged to combat desertification, land degradation, and drought by implementing the Youth Engagement Strategy. In 2022, during the 7th Mediterranean Forest Week, in Turkey, young people from the Mediterranean drafted a regional youth statement which highlights the difficulties faced in the transitional period between their academic and their working careers. Here at FAO, a youth task force by the Committee on Forestry and World Forest Week was established in April of this year to incentivize young professionals in the forestry division to discuss their work and how they're applying innovative skills. 20 young professionals gathered, sharing activities, events, including masterclasses, podcast series, agroforestry coffee tasting, for example, and a youth assembly to demonstrate the innovative work these young leaders here are doing. It is important not only to mention youth, but to actually include the trust and knowledge that young professionals bring to the table. During the youth assembly, a youth roadmap on forestry was built to and engage upon the youth call for action and stimulates the Youth Gender Caucus and global leaders to combat land degradation through education, decent work, gender equality, and women empowerment, and of course, full participation in the decision-making. UNCCD stresses the importance of ensuring this full and equal participation at all levels, which brings me back to the topic of local communities and the role of women. The forestry team here at FAO is home to two unique initiatives that focus on providing a space for local communities, women, and youth to capture information from the ground and exchange in mentoring and knowledge sharing sessions. The Making Every Voice Count for Adaptive Management, or in short, MEVCAM, initiative uses participatory monitoring and process documentation to work directly on the ground and capture the overlooked impact of good practices, indigenous knowledge, and specific skills needed to combat land degradation. Global leaders are encouraged to look beyond the obvious, look beyond the reports, look beyond the numbers, and actually listen to what women, men, youth, local communities, indigenous peoples, everyone is trying to say. They have solutions that deserve voice and recognition, and it is up to us to pay attention to them. For example, in my work with the MEVCAM initiative, participatory monitoring approach was used in Malawi in the Lingoni catchment, and where the community used a theater for development approach to advocate themselves for effective community forest management, and how improved cook stoves, for example, were sustainable for preventing land degradation and deforestation. Not only does handing the voice over to the community develop trust, it is a simple, fun, and inclusive way to document knowledge and foster a chained, easy visual sharing way of knowledge sharing. While participatory monitoring is a way for communities to develop their knowledge, a different project called the Nurturing Community of Knowledge Practice for Women in Dryland Forests and Agro-Silvopastoral Systems provides a South-South mutual learning space for women leaders to share experiences, good practices, policy actions, generating exchanges, partnership, and building capacity development. Weekend's community of over 250 members across 31 countries contains members from grassroots level, women-led organizations, civil societies, public institutions, the list goes on. In fact, UNCCD and FAO's Weekend Initiative will launch research focused on women's innovative solutions to drought, recognizing the most innovative and effective women-led solutions during this COP16. In summary, documenting firsthand knowledge is an essential step, but it must be complemented by mentoring communities, youth, and women to reduce the gap with policymakers and encourage them to take on decision-making and leadership roles and ensure meaningful engagement. By adopting mentoring and knowledge, sharing networks of women, men, youth, local communities, and indigenous peoples are provided a space to discuss these solutions, these tools, and to collectively grow and learn exactly what is needed to effectively advocate at international spaces such as this COP. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was a lot. I'm sorry to say to the oldies like me, but the youth that Victoria is representing here is already on the lead. They dominate the technologies for communication, and she gave a long list of momentum, events, activities that are being led by the youth, by women, and are transformational for us. So thank you so much, Victoria. I think it was very comprehensive. I congratulate you, and I invite you. I'm old, but I know how to use the hashtag, so I invite you to search for the hashtag Generation Restoration. It's all about restoring degraded lands. And you are going to see the amount of work, the fantastic work that the new generation is already doing, is already taking the lead. Thank you so much. I am happy now to invite our colleague, Dr. Chetan Kumar. Chetan came all the way from Switzerland, from the IUCN, where he is the head of the Forest and Grassland unit in the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and to speak to us in this event. Of course, Chetan is well known for many people because he's a former DFID, a former fellow in Cambridge, and a former C4 expert. Lots of knowledge, not only theoretical, but also on the ground. And that's why I would like to know from you experiences, initiatives, concrete cases that you have been dealing with in the framework of the Bond Challenge that's led by IUCN, in the framework of the Great Green Wall that Dr. Fu mentioned, and which is, of course, also part of the IUCN portfolio. What are your recommendations, your ideas, your best practices, in few words that we'd like to bring to the forest community?
Great. Thank you, Eduardo, for the kind introduction. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you all. I must say it's a challenge to summarize everything in 5 minutes here given, so it might take longer. But first of all, I'd like to thank Saudi Arabia, UNCCD, FAO for inviting IUCN to this side event. I'm really honored to share our collective journey on forest restoration and nature-based solution. I'll try to be brief. Our previous speakers have already outlined the challenges we are facing because of the land degradation. I would just add that land restoration is not just an environmental imperative, it's a pathway for a sustainable future. IUCN has been at the forefront of the global land restoration efforts for over 3 decades, from coining the term forest landscape restoration jointly with WWF to launching the Bond Challenge with the government of Germany. It exemplifies our ambition and work. Bond Challenge, as many of you know, is the global effort to bring under restoration 350 million hectares of degraded and deforested land by 2030. And I'm very pleased to share with you that over 70 countries have already pledged to Bond Challenge, committing about over 230 million hectares of land to be brought under restoration. Most recently, the government of Canada pledged 19 million hectares, and the government of Jordan launched a national initiative to plant 10 million trees over the next 10 years, which highlights the global nature of the restoration movement, and which has been highlighted in the plenaries and the side events here. But our work goes beyond the target setting. We collaborate and support countries in restoring millions of hectares, creating thousands of green jobs, and sequestering millions of tons of carbon, and of course, conserving biodiversity. This collaborative approach is facilitated mainly through several knowledge products, tools, methods, capacity building that ensures that everybody from planning to implementation to tracking progress is part of the solution, and that's the key. I'll come back to that. Let me give you some examples. The Restoration Opportunities Assessment Methodology, ROAM as we call it, tool we developed has been applied in 26 countries, and we have assessed over 500 million hectares of land globally, which has the potential for restoration. Our global ecosystem typology simplifies tracking, monitoring, restoration activities to enhance effectiveness of the restoration approaches. And complementing this is the IUCN Restoration Barometer, which we are very privileged and proud to share the partnership with FAO and to share the data on that. It helps to track the progress on restoration, and I'm happy to share with you that by 2022, 18 countries reported already about 14 million hectares under restoration, which has about potential of 145 million tons of carbon under sequestration. And most importantly, these restoration efforts have created nearly about 12.8 million jobs directly or indirectly worldwide. That's important. So drawing from all these experiences, I would like to focus on one key important lesson. Restoration is an intricate tapestry of collaboration. It requires concerted efforts from various stakeholders. Nobody alone can pull it off. At IUCN, we understand that true restoration transcends ecological recovery. Engaging diverse stakeholders is critical. Multi-stakeholder platforms come in various forms, and they should be tailored to the specific challenges. We have embraced this diversity, working with donors, national and subnational governments, indigenous people, local communities, and civil society organizations, each contributing unique strengths and perspective. These coalitions form the bedrock of the effective restoration movement that we see now, blending diverse knowledge and resources to drive impactful change. I will shift gears in the interest of time to share also a little bit of our work on the land degradation neutrality, rangeland and grassland restoration, and would like to also wrap up by sharing the collaborative work we are doing with the government of Saudi Arabia. IUCN is committed to supporting and achieving LDN with partners. We are addressing, again, through the capacity building and knowledge products. Our new GEF project, GEF-funded projects with both ends enhances the capacity and engagement of civil society organizations, including youth, women, as was highlighted by our previous speaker, indigenous people, to design and implement LDN projects actively. We are also just recently launched with funding from GEF, enabling activity project with UNCCD on integrating LDN into land use planning that will benefit 18 countries with the capacity to develop and implement gender-responsive transformative projects on LDN. We have been also very much actively involved in promoting rangeland restoration over past 3 decades. The sustainable investment for large-scale rangeland restoration, STELLAR, as we call it, project involves CGIAR centers like ILRI, involving value chain in funding rangeland restoration. The GEF-7 Dryland Sustainable Landscape Impact Program led by FAO and IUCN focuses on sustainable rangeland and pasture management in Central Asia, East and West Africa, and this is linked to the Great Green Wall Initiative, which you mentioned, Eduardo, which is to restore approximately 400,000 hectares of land by 2026. We are also leading development of the participatory rangeland and grassland assessment methodology, PRAGA, which we have in collaboration with FAO, tested in 5 countries. I would just take a few brief moments to share with you our collaboration with the Saudi Arabian government on ecosystem restoration. We are working in close collaboration with the Royal Commission for Alula for the strategy and execution plan for the ecosystem restoration and agroforestry. Our regional office in West Asia is working in collaboration with RCU to develop ecological restoration and afforestation strategy to ensure successful implementation aligned with RCU's vision and strategic objective. We have a workshop planned on 14th and 15th of August in Riyadh, and I would welcome you to check our website for more information on that. So I'd like to conclude that, as I said, the emphasis of the work is bringing together diverse stakeholders. You can have the best of the tools, best of the approaches. Restoration involves bringing together diverse stakeholders. If that's not there, it's not going to work, and that has been the key of our work. I'll stop here. I would like to thank again the organizers for inviting IUCN, and look forward to working with you all. This is a collective journey. It also is our profound commitment to our shared future. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chetan. It's really, really nice to see. Well, IUCN is a partner for Saudi Arabia, for many countries, but I think what I take home here, the issue of land restoration and drought preparedness is global, involve all countries. The examples that given from Chetan and what IUCN is working is not an issue that is related only to the Middle East, North Africa region. It goes beyond. Bone Challenge is an example. So it's important that all this experience is brought to Riyadh at COP16, as no matter how much we have been doing is not enough, because we are not yet on track to revert the land degradation trade. So thank you so much for bringing all these good examples. I'm fascinated to know more about the restoration barometer, because measuring restoration is very tricky, isn't it, Vera? Yes, so Dr. Li, also Li Feng, we are here from FAO. on the Land and Water Division, my colleague Feras also, who visited us in Saudi Arabia recently. Monitoring restoration is very tricky because you have to look at the social, environmental, economic aspects to provide guarantee that the restoration is going well. And I think IUCN can bring a lot to us. To close the panel, I would like to introduce you a little bit what I learned in Saudi Arabia. We have the minister that oversees us is the Minister of Environment, Water and Agriculture. Environment, Water and Agriculture in one minister in this order. So we are very proud to be one of the arms in Saudi Arabia that are implementing arms. They are centers. And we have here in the panel Dr. Raja Omer from the National Center for Vegetation Cover Development and Combating Desertification, NCVC for short. This center has the responsibility to promote the conservation, the land restoration, the revegetation agenda in the kingdom. And of course, we are very honored to host in the center the Saudi Green Initiative. Dr. Raja is going to bring to us, he's an expert on land restoration, originally from Pakistan, my colleague in the center. And it's a pleasure to work with him because he brings all the knowledge of being the head of the country delegation to the UNCCD and other conventions, has a very wide knowledge of the agreements, the international agreements, and now we are honored to have him as colleague and advisor in our center in Riyadh. So, Dr. Raja, over to you.
Thank you, Eduardo, and good afternoon to all colleagues and distinguished guests. And thank you for the introduction as well, Eduardo, being a colleague. It was a favor given to me. Thank you. Saudi Arabia, as we know, has a diverse sort of a landscape that faces a lot of challenges. It has got about 33% of the area is under deserts. We have got 75% is in rangeland use, as well as we have got 10% area, almost 10% area under mountains. So there is a diversity of landscape that we have to tackle, as well as the challenges are quite high as well, because it's a hyper-arid area country with very low rainfall and high temperatures. So when we started the greening initiative of Saudi Arabia, we had to go through a series of studies throughout the kingdom, and we worked on different approaches that can sustain the vegetation cover that we improve over the decades to come. So what we concluded was to have a sort of 5 overarching domains on which we can proceed further with our vegetation cover improvement. Under these 5 domains, we have got about 12 action zones. These action zones cover almost all sort of landscapes and diversities that we have, starting from the rangelands as well as the mangroves and valleys, urban areas even, and linear plantations and specific areas that need attention from us, like that are suffering from sand encroachment or sand and dust storms. So we have planned to have all these areas covered under our Saudi Green Initiative. The plan is initially to start with a pilot sort of activities that go up to 2030, and then a major thrust will be provided till 2060. So it's a long-term process because the restoration, especially in hyper-arid areas, required a sustainability that is over a longer time duration. So we have to go for a slow process that will lead us to the ongoing efforts that are going on. So learning from our experiences from the Saudi Green Initiative, we have also gone in for the Middle East Green Initiative, which includes about 20 or 23 countries that we are working with to improve the vegetation cover. Under the 10 billion program of Saudi Arabia, we have to tackle about 40 million hectares, whereas under the Saudi Green, Middle East Green Initiative, we have to go for rehabilitation of about 200 million hectares. of area. The experiences that we have gained over the past 1.5 to 2 years while working for the Saudi Green Initiative, the same shall be replicated in Middle East Green Initiative with all the countries. Basically, it's the same region that is suffering the same challenges that Saudi Arabia is suffering across from different landscapes, but the challenges are the same. And when we go towards COP16, our intention is the same, to encourage all member countries to come up with solutions that we come up with long-term agenda for the land. And this is what we intend to promote and encourage all countries to have a political buy-in for our long-term land agenda that we can take forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now you understand why we have Dr. Raja as advisor. He goes straight to the point. You saw that he said the ambition in the region is 200 million hectares. Shetan mentioned to us the bond challenge, 230 million. Yes, 350 million. Dr. Wu, who apologized, he has an overlap of 3 events at this moment. We are honored to have him for some time, so he apologized had to leave. He mentioned that 30% of the agricultural land is degraded in the planet. So if we think that the planet has about 12 billion hectares of land, 1/3 being for agriculture, livestock, 1/3 being for forests, 1/3 being for other purposes, including our deserts. One parenthesis, deserts has nothing with desertification. Desertification is a form of land degradation. Deserts are an ecosystem. Let's not mix the things here. Nothing wrong with deserts. It's an ecological condition. Desertification is an issue. That's the point. But I think all of you know that. The point I would like to make is that the challenge is still very big. Neither the 300 million nor the 200 million that we mentioned that are on the pathway are enough for us to revert the degradation trend. So COP16 ambition is to increase the commitments for higher actions on halting land degradation and building drought resilience. Saad, do we have a minute for question and answer? I'm in your hands.
I think probably we could have, after the session, you could grab any of the speakers and then...
So if you allow me 1 minute from my side, we introduced the panelists. Saad was very kind to introduce us, but nobody introduced him. And I would like to introduce, Saad is responsible for communications at COP16. And it's a very tough job, and he's the head of communication of one of the centers. You remember I mentioned MIWA, the minister, and then there are our center, National Center for Vegetation Cover. Our CEO is here. There is the center, National Center for Environmental Compliance in Saudi Arabia. They do the tough job. They lead the implementation of the environmental law. And communication in that for prevention of environmental wrongdoing and environmental crime is tough. And Saad is my colleague who is responsible to make sure that the community understands that. So and the videos that we saw are from this group. So I think he deserves our admiration. And with these words, I hand over then to Saad as a moderator of the session for the concluding remarks that will come on this panel. And I thank you very much, especially to the panelists. They are going to continue to be here, hold their questions. We are going to have an interaction immediately after the closure here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mansour, for your kind and generous words. I'm really flattered. With 32 years of experience in international development, she successfully managed complex initiatives across Africa, Latin America, and Canada, focusing on the environment. Her extensive work with the various international organizations has solidified her reputation as a dedicated leader and resource mobilizer. Previously, she was Benin's Minister of Environment and Nature Protection and Acting Minister of Family and the Child. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we are all delighted to invite and welcome with me Ms. Juliet Biao, Director of UN Forum and Forest Secretary, to share her invaluable insights as a concluding remarks. And I know she has a very tight time, but she was very generous to give us some of her time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the floor. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. On behalf of the Secretariat of the United Nations Forum on Forests, I would like really to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the co-organizers, UNCCD and FAO, for inviting me to deliver the closing remark to on this important event. First of all, please allow me to applaud the Kingdom's commitment and effort to realize the achievement of the global forest goals. It is a great pleasure to learn that the Kingdom had made significant progress in forest-based landscape restoration since the launching of the Saudi and Middle East Green Initiatives in 2022, aiming to restore more than 200 million hectares of degraded land. I also congratulate the previous speakers and panelists for their insightful remarks and presentations, including on the country example of Saudi Arabia, showcasing their effort to achieve a long-term vision toward land restoration through the implementation of regional initiatives, which serve as a model to other countries. The highlight on synergies have been really stressed on by the panelists. The synergies between sustainable land and forest management, and the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, emphasizing the importance of integrated approaches to address environmental challenges. The significance of forests in agri-food system and aligning their role in enhancing food security, biodiversity, and ecosystem services. And as stressed by Dr. Shetan, the opportunities offered by nature-based solutions for landscape restoration, demonstrating how these approaches can provide effective and sustainable ways to enhance landscape restorations. And finally, the importance of engaging the whole society in land restoration. You see, when we talk about forest degradation, forest degradation, and we hear many countries only look at the trees, it is wrong. Because what you remove from the land is not only the trees. Then when you come to restoration, you bring back to the land all that you have removed from the land. Otherwise, you are just scratching the problem. In my capacity of Minister of Environment and Nature Protection 17 years ago, I did not pretend to have the whole knowledge about how to restore land. I set up a multidisciplinary team composed of all these line ministries that are involved. There was no conference of the parties of the Rio Convention that I attended without getting the outcome from the work of this interdisciplinary team. I think we should really enhance the whole of the government, the cross-sectoral coordination, the whole of the society in landscape restoration, emphasizing the participation of the government, the youth, the women, and the private sector. Distinguished delegates, forests are central for the Sustainable Development Goals. Forest-based actions are crucial for land and ecosystem restoration that provide livelihood for more than 1.6 billion people globally. I call upon all member states and partners to drastically strengthen their commitment and urgently scale up and accelerate action and partnership toward achieve the global forest goals and the UN Strategic Plan for Forests 2017-2030, as affirmed in the 19th session of the UN Forum on Forests in May this year. Finally, I would like to congratulate the collaboration between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and UNCCD for organizing the 16th session of the Conference of Parties of the UNCCD, and I urge the COP16 parties to build upon the outcome of the UNFF19 in achieving the global forest goals and sustainable land restoration. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And last but not least, he hails from the magnificent Al-Ahsa Oasis, renowned for its sprawling landscape adorned with over 3 million palm trees. As a leading expert in his field, he brings a unique blend of local heritage and advanced knowledge to our event. His deep connection to Al-Ahsa, or Al-Ahsa's rich agriculture traditions, or as they like to call it, Al-Hassa, combined with his innovative research, offers valuable insights into sustainable practices and environmental stewardship. Honored to have Dr. Khalid Abdulqadir, the CEO of the National Center for Vegetation Cover, to give his closing remarks. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Saad, for the nice introduction. And just I would like really to thank the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and to thank them very much for being here today and to make this event a success. We had an engaging and enriching discussion on signifying the importance of forest restoration and land. The contribution made by the panelists toward firming action agenda for COP16 is greatly appreciated. We would like to extend gratitude to all panelists for sharing insights, knowledge, and all deliberations which made this event truly special. Definitely, this event would not have been possible without the support of co-organizers, including FAO and UNCCD. In particular, we are grateful to FAO for the support extended in hosting this event and also providing spaces to promote COP16 throughout this whole Forest Week. Indeed, this event has become memorable with the presence of all distinguished guests. Your presence, attention, and engagement during the event is greatly appreciated. We thank you for joining us and being a part of this event. As we conclude, let us carry forward the knowledge and inspiration we have gained today. May this event be a catalyst for further learning, collaboration, and positive change. On behalf of Saudi Arabia, we would like to encourage all distinguished guests to attend COP16 of UNCCD to be held from the 2 to 13 of December 2024 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to jointly work toward the commitment of Riyadh and to cause the restoration land and its resources. Thank you all for your participation and support.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. And as we conclude right now, we'd like to thank our amazing speakers for giving us this honor, and thank you all for attending and part of your special and very valuable time. We would like to really invite you all and remind you, please, we have the barcode at the back at the end with the small iPad screen where you could actually all register for the COP16, and we'll be delighted to see you all attending the COP16 Riyadh, and hopefully see you in Riyadh in December. Thank you.